I think whatever denomination of Christianity brings you closest to the Lord is the right one for you to pursue. I recognize that in any of those 20 years, especially the final 5 when I was playing professionally, so close to the dream, I never prayed and asked the single most important question: God, what do you want from me in my life? Like, what is your dream for me? I never asked it when I was playing baseball because I was afraid if the answer wasn't baseball, like, I'm screwed in my mind. Because I had chased since I was 6 years old and I'm 26. And it was then that I really started to dig in.
What happens when your lifelong dreams to make it into Major League Baseball is shattered? What if losing everything that you chased for 20 years, fame, fortune, was the very thing that set you free? Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. My name's Erik, and today I chat with entrepreneur, wealth manager, and husband and dad to 7 wonderful kids, Matt Morizio. In this episode, we get into how Jesus showed up in the most unlikely of places, the dugout of his former team, the Kansas City Royals, and how he used to chase money, but that only brought him more problems, and how being homeless, jobless, and even hopeless led him to seek more of God's wisdom for the answers. So don't scroll up just yet, because this conversation will challenge what you believe about success and reveal what happens when you start living with bold faith and a focus on eternal impact. If you're new to this channel, this show exists to provide clarity for 1 million mission-driven entrepreneurs and brands so that together we can create an impact for eternity. So hit that subscribe button and join the movement. Now let's play ball with Matt Morizio. What is up, folks? Welcome back to another show of Be Your Brand to Glorify God. I am so excited that you're here because I got an amazing dude here for you. I'm going to introduce you to in just a second. And he and I have been jamming for a short amount of time, but it feels like a long amount of time. Sometimes when you meet people that are cut from the same cloth, have the same values, and then you start to realize, hey, we kind of already know each other. This is cool. So I want you guys to get that vibe and value from his story, because he has been building, he has been growing, family, friends, faith, all those things. I'm so excited, brother. Welcome to the show, Matt Morizio.
Oh, man, thank you so much. What an honor. I'm excited. Like you said, we've only jammed a little while, but holy smokes, it feels like it's been a long time.
Yeah, dude, I'm so inspired by you from the podcast level. I mean, all other things, but just letting people know here, you know, your mission to get to on 100 shows. And that's how we met, you know, our mutual friend. Big shout out to Kristen Jackson.
Thank you, Kristen.
Of Free Spoke. I was like, yeah, I want to help Matt get him on my show. I'll get him on other shows, just because that is a huge task. Even though people think like it may be easy, it is not. So yeah, let's start there. I know I want to get into your story, but yeah, what sparked that podcast sort of campaign, and what was the first step?
That's a good question. What started it was my realization that as I looked at my business, I launched my business a year plus ago, but have been doing it nearly a decade. Financial advising, that's the world I'm in. So I've been doing it for a while, and then stepped out on my own, launched my own thing a year and a half ago or so, and I realize, like, as you have your own business, there's always going to be parts and components of the business where there's a bottleneck. It's usually marketing, sales, or delivery of some sort. No matter if it's service or product business, you can kind of chunk your business into those 3 buckets. And my bottleneck that I was recognizing is really in the marketing side, at the front end side of it. In other words, I could be great at what I do, but if nobody knows I exist, I can't help people. And I had this compelling reason to serve a certain type of person, kind of like who I once was. And we'll get into that. I won't share all of that right now, but I wanted to reach those people. And I said to myself, how the heck can I reach those people? I don't think going through the cold messaging and be like, hey, I think you're an interesting person, let's meet, is going to work for me. So I thought to myself, well, the modern day radio is a podcast. And I don't have my own show yet. Maybe one day I will. But I was like, if I could speak on other shows to audiences of people that I really want to serve at some point, at least want them to know that I exist, so I can maybe spark a change in their life, then why not try? So I set a lofty goal to get on 100 in a year. I figure that's about 2 a week. And that's in my mind said, well, that sounds like a lot, but doable. I don't know if it is doable, but we're on a mission.
Yeah, brother. I mean, 52 weeks in a year, it's a couple a week, man. That's it. That's
Yeah,
it. And then you're
sounds
over your goal. I
sounds so
mean, what
easy
was
when
the
you say
first
it that
step
way.
to doing it?
Well, the first step was I used AI to figure out like what's the best way to find podcasts that have growth-minded, entrepreneurial type listeners, an audience of people that I think I could best serve with my story. And it listed a whole bunch of podcasts, listed a whole bunch of services. And I started with some cold DMs to some of those podcasts, and it worked a little bit. And then there's this service out there that I got kind of moved to called Podmatch, which
Like,
kind of
yeah,
already does that, which I know you know the guys that started it.
yeah,
So I
brother.
jumped on that, and I've been sending messages. But basically what it is like 100% me, not 100%, because obviously Kristen connected us here. But it's a lot of outbound effort to just say, look, I've got a story to tell, and I want people to hear it, because I think if they can hear the change that's happened in my life, I
Mm-hmm.
think it could compel them to change theirs. And I know the benefit that's happened to me as a result of changing. And if I can do that for one listener on one show, like that's worth it to me.
Yeah, heck yeah, brother. Good for you, man.
Thanks.
I'm like I said, I'm inspired. I literally just wrote down hire a VA just for Podmatch because I used to have a team member. She's no longer with us, but Jean used to manage that for me.
Okay.
And if you have somebody managing it for you, because like you said, it's a lot of administrative effort for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But man, if you can hit that every single day and make sure that that's a cadence for you, like you
Yep.
said, man, you can get to your goal. But yeah, I'm so glad we're here. And it's funny you didn't find me through that, even though I'm in that platform.
Right.
But yeah, brother, let's get into your story. I want to learn more about your faith journey right now, and yeah, how did that start, brother? What's your testimony? How did Christ enter your life?
Man,
And
go right to it. I love it. Uh, I started young. I would say it started really for me. I grew up like going in the Northeast, you're either Jewish or Catholic. You know, from New Jersey, you're Jewish, Catholic, but it kind of doesn't matter what you are because you're not going to talk about it anyway. But that's
yes,
typically what the majority is of my friends, my upbringing, people I knew.
yeah,
So I grew
yeah.
up going to a Catholic school and Mass and First Communion and everything. And so I understood church, sort of, but that's how I understood church was like a Catholic Mass. Anybody who's Catholic understands what I mean. Oh, I didn't know anything beyond that until I went to Texas when I was in fourth grade. Now, my parents had just finalized or were finalizing a divorce, and it was ugly. They just, even to this day, they don't get along as well, and it's sad. But I was in the beginning of that, and my aunt and uncle live in Texas. So my grandmother wanted to fly me to Texas and come with me and take us on a trip, really to kind of get away from all of that. I learned, but for me, it was just a vacation to Texas to see my aunt and uncle, and that was cool. And in Texas, my aunt and uncle, like any good Southern Baptist would, eventually they talked to me about Jesus and a personal relationship with him and what that means. And that was all language I didn't hear before because I hadn't heard anything like that. But I was in this vulnerable state, I guess you could say, where I was recognizing like, man, my world just got turned upside down, and the things I thought I could lean on, I just can't depend on apparently. And I felt like I needed something to give me like an anchor, give me some peace. And when they shared that, I remember in fourth grade at that night in their bedroom praying like, well, God, I don't know about this relationship thing, but I really do like what they said. And I want you to take over my life because I can't handle what's happening. I don't understand what's happening. You know, I'm using fourth grade language at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I do remember a sense of like peace and calm, almost like full body tingles kind of around me when I was praying that prayer. So it kind of felt like something happened, you know, like that's the best way I could describe it.
Mm-hmm.
And now in hindsight, like I didn't really have words for it. This was all brand new. I just was sort of following my aunt and uncle blindly because it sounded good and made sense to me, I guess. And in hindsight, I was like, man, that was really the beginning of my real faith journey. I would say that's when the seed really was planted. And admittedly, that plant didn't grow very much for quite some time. It was a seed and it was planted and it wasn't really fed and well taken care of, I suppose you could say. But he was in there. He was part of me. I acknowledged him as ruler of my life. Now, I like to describe my journey, my upbringing, like as, especially in college, as like, the people put dogs on a leash that like runs out, and eventually the leash automatically stops if the owner doesn't stop it. I feel like God had me on that leash, and I probably ran it to the extent of the leash's maximum capacity a lot. But all the while I knew he was part of my life, right? But I wouldn't necessarily say I was full surrender letting him do the leading until I got after college. I played baseball in college, and then I got to play professionally with the Royals in their minor league system. And it was then that I really started to dig in, and I would say that seed that was planted started to grow into a plant and grow into something. Because for the first time in my life, I had guys that were around me chasing this ridiculous dream. I mean, we all accomplished statistically the near impossible. At that point, none of us were in the big leagues, but just to get drafted by a professional team and play that sport statistically puts you in the 0.0 whatever% of people. So we're already in pursuit of what should be an impossible dream, all the while believing we still will achieve the impossible. So like I'm surrounded by these growth-minded guys that all obviously love sport. It's their passion. Baseball's their thing, like it is mine. And they were normal guys. They were athletes. They were into a lot of the same things I was into. And the only real difference I could tell was some of them just talked about Jesus the same way they talked about tying their shoes or the game last night or something, like in the clubhouse, they would say Jesus' name. And in the Northeast, in my upbringing, you only said that if you were in church in a prayer or you were angry. Like that was the two times you said that out loud. But you didn't just speak normally about it. So I admittedly, early on in my professional baseball career, I still got uncomfortable, kind of like block my ears, look around. If people were talking about Jesus too loudly, I'm like, someone's going to hear, and that was just my own insecurity around it. But
that's a very common feeling.
Yeah.
I know that feeling. I still feel that feeling.
Yeah, totally. So that's a normal feeling, but those guys warmed me up to it because it was such a matter of fact part of their life. And then here's the biggest, I think, the influential change for me. The Bible talks about Jesus meeting you where you're at. He will for sure do that. And I'm living proof. I remember in baseball, in pro sports, and I'll speak specifically about baseball, but it happens in other sports. They have what's called baseball chapel. And it's because Sundays are day games. You can't go to church on a Sunday morning when you're in season because the weekends sell the most tickets. So you play Sunday day games, meaning you're at the ballpark at 8 a.m. or something. And instead of going to a church, baseball chapel basically brings church to you. Literally in the dugout before the game, we have a sermon right there in the dugout. So it's like you get there early, you do your early work, you've already hit batting practice, you're sweating, you're in your uniform, you might have seeds, gum, tobacco in your mouth. Like everything was in there, in the dugout. Sweat, like spitting in my element. And in walks a local pastor who's the team chaplain to read a passage of sermon and give like a quick sermon on the passage.
Does he have chew too?
He did it, but a lot of guys did. Like, that's the thing. I'm like, this is not church. I'm thinking I'm used to Catholic mass, stand, sit, kneel, sit, stand, go. I'm like, these guys got dip. They're like spitting seeds, chewing tobacco. And Jesus is here. Like, all right, well, this is different. I didn't know about this. And it really was, for the first time, felt like, oh, you don't have to be like a weird Bible thumping freak to be able to still have a relationship with Jesus, And the more I got into that, the more I realized, wow, this is what I needed. This is where it's at. So that to me is where like that little baby seedling of a plant started to become something. And I don't know what you want to call it now, but it's grown pretty big. I'm going to call it an oak tree, but it can be call it whatever you want. It's really, really grown since then.
Let's go, bro. Oh, I love it, dude. What a fabulous story, man. Same as you with, the upbringing in the Catholic Church as a child, but it was always just compartmentalized for that Sunday, and then you go live your sinful life as soon as you leave church. Um, but what I resonate with your story, the part where it's like it basically looked cool, like it finally Christianity was cool, right?
Yeah,
Like you
that's a
were
good way to
around a
say it.
bunch of high level, high achieving, strong, strapping
Right.
men. And that same thing happened to me. I started to see young folks, in their 20s, cool, hip, and like, and they're like, I love Jesus. And I'm like, what? And this was like, several years ago, and they were on my team. And I just started to recognize Jesus's presence. And I was just dropping F-bombs, even the G1. And then like, I was just living that secular life. And then the thing that you're mentioning is what happened to me as well. It became cool and
Yeah.
acceptable to have the conversation and to say his name. And then when I started to embrace that, I started changing, just like, I'm not, like I had to have someone on my team go, you know what, I'm not going to tell you how to speak, but when you say, my Lord's name in vain, and so I was like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I don't mean to offend. And that little change, dude, by just not saying his name, like you said, in a swear when you're angry, and that little thing over time started to change my heart and change this. And now I'm with you, man. I'm hoping that I'm growing an oak as well.
That's awesome.
So I want to get into your business. We're going to get to that, but I want to see how this affected your family. You have a wonderful, growing, massive family of 7 children.
Yeah.
So how did, when you found your wife, was that a main value that you're like, I have to marry someone of the same, faith, or like, were you like me? It was like a happy coincidence, really? Or the Lord wasn't a coincidence. It was a God incidence, but for sure we didn't, thank God now we're like, oh yeah, we were both raised the same. But yeah, how was that for you?
That was important for me. It wasn't ever important for me until then. So I really feel like God's timing was perfect there, where by the time it was something that I wanted in my marriage, I met the woman who also wanted that, And it's funny, now we have 7 kids, and I'll share a quick story with that, but now we have 7 kids, and people often ask me, are you Mormon? I'm like, no. Are you Catholic? I'm like, not really. I grew up, but no. They're like, why do you have so many kids? I'm like, I just love my wife. But I feel like I just want to say this. I'm not knocking Catholicism. I feel like that it sounded like it wasn't an appropriate, like it wasn't a good Christian upbringing. It is, and very much is. I think whatever denomination of Christianity brings you closest to the Lord is the right one for you to pursue. Amen. It just, for me, I never connected to Jesus the way I have since. So I just wanted to say that, it's not, Catholicism is not bad. I don't want people to be like, oh, he's an anti-Catholic. I'm not anything, If you feel closest to Jesus in your denomination, it's probably the right one for you, so long as it's rooted in biblical truth. 100%. But I will say, my wife and I, we went on our first date. We were actually set up by her mom and my dad. They went, our families are, my dad and my stepmom and her mom and dad, they used to go to the same church. And they were communicating while I was away. I was living in Newport Beach, California. Imagine that, pro athlete, Newport Beach in the winter, training for baseball with a teammate of mine, because the weather for baseball in December in Newport Beach is a whole lot better than Boston, where I was living at the time, or where I'm from originally. So I'm flying back home only for Christmas, just to then go back to Newport Beach. I had no interest in meeting a girl. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going from Newport to Arizona spring training, Arizona to wherever I'm playing in that year I don't want to try to meet a girl in Massachusetts. And they're saying to me, hey, when you fly back for Christmas break, or for the holiday, Addie wants to meet you and get coffee. And meanwhile, her mom is telling her, hey, when Matt flies back for Christmas, he wants to meet you for coffee. So both of us are thinking the other one wants to meet with us. So we're both walking into it with like these like, I don't know, big overblown egos, thinking like the other one wants to meet me. But we set a first date for 5 p.m. on a Friday, the day after Christmas, at the Cheesecake Factory. Because each of us, I was only home for a short time, and she was actually just coming back from a 3-month or 4-month backpacking tour of Europe by herself with her best friend. So she was like post-college, independent stage. And we set that 5 o'clock at Friday at the Cheesecake Factory because we both wanted to be able to go hang out with our friends after. Dinner should end early enough for us to hang out. But in that dinner, long-winded point is, in that dinner, first dinner, it came up and she said to me that I want to meet a man that loves Jesus more than he loves me. And I was like, uh-oh, this girl's different. I should have set the dinner for later. Because we ended up finishing at like 6:30 and we're like, wow, this is really good. I want to keep talking, but like there's not even anywhere to go. So we walked around and eventually found like somewhere to sit and have another drink or something. But yeah, that's how important it was. It came up in date number 1. And when she said that, it was like she stole the words out of my mouth. I'm like, oh my gosh, because I know now, especially, that for us in a relationship where Jesus is at the center, we're stronger, right? Like if we are both, it kind of like a cross, like if we're both focused upward, then our unity, the connection between us is stronger. But if we both are missing that vertical piece and only focus on the horizontal, the cross isn't complete. Like the relationship really does struggle because now each of us are looking at each other to be, not our savior is the wrong word, but like to be the hero of each other's story. And like, we're humans. We're going to screw up time and time again. She's going to let me down. I'm going to let her down. And if we aren't focused on the right thing, like putting Jesus at the center of it and going to him with our needs, our wants, our hurts, our desires, and then communicating to each other, hey, here's what I'm hearing in prayer. Like, I want to talk to you about it. Like, if we're not there, then we're looking to each other for answers that we can't, like, we're looking to each other for answers that we can't have, we don't have. So it was and has been the most important part of our marriage.
Wow. Amazing, dude. And I give you permission to lie at this point. It's okay. I think Jesus will be okay with it. But in that moment, or very soon after, were you like, this is the one I'm going to marry?
It was the next day. So at the end of that date, I called her. Well, no, at the end of the date, I told her, all right, well, I'll call you tomorrow. And then like said goodbye, just like a hug goodbye. And I remember going back to my car being like, why did I tell her I was going to call her tomorrow? Like, why did I say that? Because 3 days later, like 3 days after that date, I was going back to California. I don't want to continue this, even though it was a phenomenal dinner. Yeah. Like, where's this going to go? You know, in my own head, that's what I'm thinking. So I did call her the next day because I wanted to be a man of my word. I didn't want to like, have lip service, say it and not mean it. But we talked. It was like a 3-minute talk. Just, hey, I had a fun time last night, whatever. It was like, that was it. And when we hung up, I'm not joking, like less than 10 seconds later, my phone rang and it was her calling me back. And I thought it was like a butt dial or something. I answered. I'm like, hello? And her first words, she goes, that's it? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, that's it? You don't want to see each other? You don't want to see me again? Like, we had a good night and that's it? You're just going to let it go? I was like, oh. And in that moment, I'm like, oh no, I'm done.
Wow.
It took her a little more time to come around, but she did. So from that date to engagement was 5 months. So we did quickly. And on top of that, I still went back to California a few days later. I didn't see her. I wasn't around that whole time. So she flew out for a week to visit me. I flew home for a week to visit her between then and May when we got engaged. So like we actually only spent 2 weeks in person in total in those 5 months before we got engaged. And what's even crazier, 5 months later, we got married, but 4 months later, I finally went home. So I was only with her in the same state, in the same location for a month. That was the longest we'd ever been together. And it was the month before we were getting married. So I'm not going to lie. Like I was a little bit worried, like, what if like after a couple weeks, this doesn't feel as good as it does, you know? But it's too late. We're getting married. But here we are.
Yeah. What if it's like, imagine that scenario in Friends where Ross is dating this girl and she's filthy and like she doesn't recognize or she has lack of self-awareness. Do you remember this episode? And like he's trying to have, be intimate and have and kiss her and stuff, but there's like clothes all over the couch and then he puts his hand under and it was like a ham sandwich or like something was wet. It's like, I can't.
That's really funny.
Good thing she wasn't like that.
That's too funny.
But dude, that's awesome, dude. I love hearing God's hand in all of that. Your parents being the proper vessel, to make that introduction, and the way they did it is so fun.
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
And then I'm sure as you guys got to get to know each other, it was a long honeymoon phase. Was it ever a plan to have 7 kids?
No, it wasn't a plan. As a matter of fact, we got married, went out to spring training, and she had quit her teaching job. And then I went to go, she quit so that she could come join me on this baseball journey. Because, who knows how long it's going to last. So she quit her full-time teaching job to join me in Arizona to go spring training, only for me to then get released, which is the baseball term of being fired. So actually, she quit her job and I got fired all within the first few months of being married, to the point where now we're homeless because we only had a short-term rental where we were living. We're driving from Arizona back to Massachusetts, calling parents like, hey, I got released, change of plans, we're coming home. Don't know what we're going to do. We need a place to stay. Can we sleep on your couch, sleep in a spare bedroom, all the things. And in that summer of couch surfing, trying to find a home, we were homeless, but not on the streets homeless, but we were trying to find our spot. We got pregnant with our first kid. So we had a very little honeymoon. We had 6 months of marriage before we started having children. And it almost just basically hasn't stopped. It's 14 years. We've had 7 kids. So I joke now, I basically married an either pregnant or nursing woman, with the exception of the first 6 months.
Wow. Yeah. It's my wife is one of 4, so not nearly as much, but enough where she says, I remember my mom always just being pregnant. That's going to probably be the story for most of the kids, right?
No kidding. She's pregnant. That's right.
And that was always like to be.
That's it. I only know what it's like to be married to a pregnant or a nursing woman. I don't know anything else yet.
So much fun, dude. So much fun. I have something really exciting to share with you. My book, Be Your Brand to Glorify God, is officially available. Why this book? Why this book now? Why do you need it? It was the book that I was searching for when I was building my business and I was beginning my walk and then eventually my run into faith. And it was the guide that I wish I had during that time. Something to give me strength, confidence, and clarity to keep showing up, creating content, sharing my experiences at the time. It offers stories and biblical principles to support you as you build your business, your personal brand. You want to make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. And spoiler alert, it's not about you. It's not about me. Even though it's called personal branding, it's something much, much bigger. And that's what I needed. That was the clarity that I was searching for. And it's in this book. So if you're a Christian entrepreneur who's on your faith journey and you're ready to stop hiding or being afraid to share your faith, this book is for you. So grab it now on Amazon or head to beyourbrandnow.com, where you'll get the book and a free download called Know Your Roots to help you define your core values, which is the first step in building a clear and powerful personal brand. So pick up your copy today and remember to leave a rating and review to help others like you find it when they need it. So yeah, I want to jump into your business. You own a wealth management business. When you finally put your bat and gloves down, was that your backup? Did you go to college for that and say okay, this is going to be my safety net? And or my first question to that is, there are other options for pro league ballers to go to Italy, go to Japan. Yeah. I know Japan's a hard league to get into, but right. Did that also come to play in your mind? Maybe I'll just go to these other things, or you're just no, I'm just retire.
Yeah, I did have options, not a lot. I wanted to play what's called affiliated ball. Basically, it's 30 MLB teams. They all have minor league affiliates. They have minor league teams. So among the 30 teams, if you're on one of the minor league clubs, it's considered affiliated ball. That's the term. But none of the other clubs wanted me. So I didn't have any affiliated options. But I did have an option to play in Italy, which is interesting. You said that. But play in Italy, my wife was going to come. They were going to pay for living plus expenses and have a car. It was going to be a fun, in hindsight, probably would have been a really fun journey to just do that with her. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if it's I'm thick-headed or I'm just too stubborn or what it was, but I've always had this like tilt toward growth and progress in my life, and that's like always been me. And when you're talking the world of professional baseball, anything that's not affiliated ball is a step back. And Italy would have been a dramatic step back in terms of career progress. It would have been awesome, don't get me wrong. But I was looking at it like, man, I have poured my life, literally 20 years, into baseball. And at the end of the day, if it's not in the cards, if my talent, if I'm just not good enough, and nobody wants me that's going to get me the chance to go to the big leagues where I ultimately was the goal. Like, why am I going to hang on to this dream that's not there? You know, and I just felt a real conviction in my heart to be like, no to Italy, and I guess no to baseball. It's not God's plan for me. And I didn't go to school for wealth management. I had a business degree with a concentration in entrepreneurship. But I like to say I went to school for baseball because that was my focus. I went to Northeastern because it was a D1 program, one of the best in New England, now top in the country, which is super cool. And I had a chance to play. Like, that was why I went. I didn't go for academics. I had an academic scholarship. It wasn't like a slouch in school, but I had this one singular focus. I had burned the boats, you know, like I had no backup plan. So when I was done playing, it was very much like, what do I do with my life moment? And on top of that, we had a baby that I was the sole provider for with no job and no income and a brand new grad resume because I actually had to go finish my degree. I had one semester left. I left to go play ball. So I finished my degree and here we go having a baby. And I'm like, this is not a great start to my providing life. So I went to a staffing firm. That's how I got started in business. I literally had no idea where I should apply. There was like 3 sports industry businesses in Massachusetts: Reebok, Franklin Batting Gloves, and All Star Catchers Gear. They're headquartered in Massachusetts. I'm like, well, I was in the sports industry. I should apply to sports companies. You know, in hindsight, I wish I had a mentor that was like, hey, look, you have these intangibles that will really play well in sales, in entrepreneurship. Like, find startups, find sales positions. Like, that would have been great. Instead, I was like, baseball's sports, I should find sports. You know, like that's all. And I was 0 for 3 on those for applications. So I went to this staffing firm named Kforce to help me find a job. That's what they do. So I actually cut my teeth in business and in finance and accounting, temporary staffing. Now, I went to them thinking they would place me with one of their clients, but in that interview process, it went well enough that they instead kind of turned the tables and said, hey, how about you work for us instead? And I was like, sold. What does that mean? It was pure sales. $100 a day, 12 in-person meetings a week, and that hamster wheel never ends. And I was just on it. But in sales, you can control your income better than most careers within a business. So as my life expenses grew, you know, 1 kid to 4, 1 apartment to a house, 1 car to 2, like I was able to afford and provide for the family. Wasn't much left over, but like God was continuing to show me the steps. So it wasn't until fast forward 4.5 years and top performer status and all the things, I knew finance staffing was not my career, but I also knew like I had to provide. So I was hitting my KPIs, those 12 meetings a week, $100 a day. One of the 12 meetings of one random week happened to be Ben Beck at Beck Bodie, was the wealth management firm I used to work for. And similarly, he was like, hey, I think you'd be great in wealth management. Like, have you ever considered it? And that's how I eventually got into the industry. It was not my plan. As a matter of fact, I tried to say no at first because I had met wealth managers as an athlete and was never very impressed with what they did or how they did it. I just couldn't really articulate who was different from the next. They all sounded the same. I sounded the same in staffing, so I didn't want to continue that with a different hat on, basically. Like, I didn't want to just keep selling myself. So I said no initially. Eventually, I read this book that Ben Beck mailed to me. He's like, I'm going to mail you a book. It's going to model our investment strategy here read it. If you like it, let's talk more. And I fell in love with the investment strategy because it was different than anything I'd ever heard from any advisor I'd ever talked to, which at that point, with that finance network that I built, is dozens. And I loved it. And I learned how it worked. And one thing led to another. And here I am today. So that book, I'll just say this, that book's called Dancing with the Analysts. And it quite literally changed the trajectory of my life because there was a career opportunity on the other side of it. And had I not read it, I wouldn't have jumped into the career and I wouldn't be here today talking to you. Now, I don't pretend that that's going to happen to everybody who has a chance to read that book. But if anybody listening wants a copy of that book, I mean, find me on Instagram and send me a DM and I will mail you a free copy, just like I got mailed one to me. I'll mail you a copy, and at worst case, you'll just gain some insight on how to manage money, like how it works. That's all. You know, not to say you need to do it that way, but I just want to offer that to listeners.
That's amazing, dude. Does the author know that you do that and you like hawk his promote his book like that?
Yeah, I actually called him to buy a case of them.
Awesome.
I was
okay,
like, hey man, good. I need a case of books.
Yeah, hopefully, you know, maybe you could build a relationship with that guy. I know those are typically guys who, you know, as I mentioned earlier, not a you know, intentional plug here, is I appreciate when I hear people say, "Hey, I loved your book," and like the more of you that could do that for them, you know, it's just, man. So yeah, I'm glad that you reached out and that's so cool, dude. What was his name again? His
name is David Malik. Yeah, I even got to sit with him a handful of years ago in he's a Merrill Lynch advisor in Philadelphia or outside of Philadelphia. So it was cool. I got to talk to him about the strategy. How'd you think of it? And he showed me his old books and all. It was awesome. It was a cool experience.
So cool. So cool. So when you decided to create Reconstructing Wealth, what was the catalyst for that? And how much of your faith is incorporated? I mean, it's pretty obvious for me, you know, on your website and stuff and speaking to you, but yeah, how intentional was that throughout the iterative process?
Well, it was very intentional to answer the question directly. It was intentional. It's foundational in my life. And if I don't push it on people. I think that people can hug you with their faith or they can punch you in the face with it, you know, and you tell me which one is better received. I don't ever force it on anybody, but I also recognize that people have wonderful BS detectors, you know, like they understand when you are living or speaking incongruently from who you are. So if I am to deny that as a part of me and pretend like it doesn't matter, yet it does matter and it's central to everything I do, people pick up on it and they're like, why are you holding back? What are you denying? Is there something weird about that faith that you shouldn't share? You know, and then weird questions arise. So for me, it's foundational for why I moved, what I want to do, underlying everything that I want to do for people. Like that's at the root. But to answer your question, what made me take the leap? From day one, when I started in this industry, I knew that like I'm wired entrepreneurially. I'm wired to want to do my own thing, I'm a bit of a maverick, a bit of a cowboy. You know, I mean, look at my life, my body of work. I chased a dream for 20 years that very few ever realize. And I got almost all the way there. And now I have a wife who 5 months after dating her, I engaged. 5 months later, got married. 7 children. We homeschool our kids. Like now I'm 40 years old with 7 kids, launched a firm. Like I'm not a poster child for conformity. You know, like I don't like life rules need not apply sort of thing is sort of my mindset. So I always knew that I will thrive and probably be the best version of me if I'm launching my own thing as opposed to doing somebody else's thing. But I also recognize like I tried in that baseball journey, I tried to call the shots. You know, I didn't realize this, Erik, until probably a couple years ago, as I've really reflected on my life. I was just having a moment, I guess. And I recognized that I never in any of those 20 years, especially the final 5 when I was playing professionally, so close to the dream, I never prayed and asked the single most important question, which is, how I ask and start nearly every prayer. It's the only question I ask, which is, God, what do you want from me in my life? Like, what is your dream for me? I never asked it when I was playing baseball because I was afraid if the answer wasn't baseball, like, I'm screwed in my mind. Because I had chased since I was 6 years old and I'm 26. I'm so close to that thing. Like, I don't want to hear from you, God, that it's not baseball. So instead, in my prayers, especially when like the entire field looked like one giant glove and I couldn't hit water if I fell off a boat, that's how much I couldn't hit. And I remember praying those evenings where I could not play this game that was so natural to me, and I was struggling worse than I ever struggled in my life. I remember praying like, God, I will honor you as we turn this around. I will acknowledge that I can't do this on my own accord, and it will be you and a result of you that I am able to succeed and make it to the big leagues. And then I'll have the platform and the influence, and I'll use it for your glory. None of that was wrong. None of that was also intentionally like manipulative. I actually was praying what I thought was supposed to be prayed. I just have grown in my faith, and I've learned, like, dummy, you actually never asked the most important question is, God, what's your plan for me? It was instead, I was trying to manipulate and influence my plan onto how God can use me. Like, I was driving the bus. There's no other way to say it. So today, I'm done driving the bus. My prayer always is, God, what's my next step? In Psalms, it says, your word is a lamp to our feet. But those lamps were the equivalent of about 5 candles strength. So like you can only see a few feet in front of you. And I've learned, like, I don't have the benefit of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't get to know the whole story. I only get to know 5 feet in front of me. So God, what's my next step is my prayer always. And I knew in my heart I wanted to launch my own thing 8.5, 9 years ago. I also knew that that little flame would turn into something on God's time. So I just patiently worked. I worked the soil is the best way to say it. Until literally a couple years ago, after we moved down here, it started roaring. Like, it started from a flame to a fire. And this is my long-winded answer to say, how is it incorporated into the decision to launch? It wasn't until a couple years ago where it really turned into this bonfire that I was like, I can't deny it. And now it's like feeling like the worst possible moment for me to launch a business. I just had my 7th child. Like, are you serious, God? And it's funny, in my life, whenever God calls me to do something, even if I've been praying for it, it's often like he brings me to the point where the decision is to be made. And then I meet that with a ton of resistance. Like, I don't think that's smart, God. I don't think that's the right time. But I've learned to hear his voice, that not audibly hear his voice, but understand when he's calling me to move. And what's cool is the more I could shorten that delta, that difference from when he speaks and I take action, the faster my life changes. The scarier my life is, because those decisions become like, faith is stepping into the unknown. It isn't stepping into the predicted. It's like you have to take that step. Like, I had to launch the business and faithfully believe that enough clients would join me to provide for my family. Or if not, Uber or Home Depot or something would be hiring me to provide. I didn't know the next step. I just knew my step was to launch the business. So I needed to faithfully take that step. And then when that step was taken, the next one was revealed. So when I launched my business, I didn't know if I was going to be able to provide, but I knew God was leading me. And I knew I wasn't leading the show because 9 years ago, I wanted to do it myself. But I was done because I tried it in baseball. And in 20 years, I eventually crashed and burned, and that hurt. And I don't need to crash and burn if he's driving, So the image of the logo even is a lion head with 3 stars. And it's because I model my life with like 4 pillars: faith, family, fitness, then finance, in that order. So the lion is the finance part of the business, and then it's faith, family, fitness are the 3 stars. So it's quite literally incorporated into the logo of the business.
What a wonderful story, man. I'm so inspired by it. I connect with it very much. Though if I could summarize everything you shared there, and that's a beautiful story in one word, it would be you learned, and you were, and continue to be obedient.
You got it. That's the word I had in my head too. Yeah. I heard a Tim Keller sermon on that real quick. Obedience. He talked about leaving a void in your life, an intentional void for God, for the Holy Spirit to show up. And I looked at that, like if you want to take the secular vantage point of that, the personal development, personal growth vantage point of that is the same as get comfortable being uncomfortable, or do things before you're ready to do them. Like that growth happens at the extremities. We know that in weightlifting, we know that in life. Like that's how you grow. So when Tim Keller gave a sermon on everything that I loved about growth, because I'm passionate about growth and becoming like the fullest version of me. But when he gave this sermon, he said, most of you type A control freaks, and I was like, stop talking to me, Tim. You know, he said, most of you type A, you guys will make just A, B decisions in your life where you really understand with a high degree of conviction how choice A and how choice B will turn out. And then you make the best educated choice that you can based off of all the factors you have. He's like, you realize that when you do that, you don't leave any room for the Holy Spirit to show up and perform miracles because you understand both paths pretty clearly. There will be some things that don't go as planned, but you got a pretty good plan for everything. He's like, when you leave a complete void in your life where the only way it works out is because the Holy Spirit shows up, God performs a miracle in your life because you had no idea how that thing was going to work out, that's when you start to live a miraculous life. That's when you start to live this God-led life. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the whole idea of growing and expanding and jumping into things when you're not ready. But it's got this root of Jesus and this biblical root to it. And I've learned it. I've experienced it firsthand. And I also learned, like, as life gets bigger, those leaps get scarier because there's a lot more riding on it. Like 7 children, 40 years old, launching a business wasn't really this like very easy to do, common logical step. I was just like, hey, that's where God's leading us. And that's a giant unknown. I don't know how this is going to go. So I actually chase those. I pray for those. And then when he reveals them to me, I usually push back and say, no, that's not a good idea. But like that's the give and take of the relationship that I'm like, oh man, I want to be sure he's driving the bus. And that's the best way I've ever heard it articulated.
Just to speak really quickly into that, and we have a couple more things I want to cover before our time ends here. Same as you, raised Catholic and never understanding or knowing that it was even possible to have a relationship with him.
Yeah.
And I think that if for anyone who's listening and you made it this far, thank you. I think that the relationship portion of it, if that's hard to grasp, just think about any relationship, whether like the story you shared with your wife, your spouse, your partner, you're dating someone, whatever it is, a friendship. It takes conversation. It takes communion. It takes time having that spent that aside, just the two of you, for the long term. Now, it doesn't happen quickly. Maybe it does, depending on your prayers and how intense they are. It's happened for sure for me in the beginning, and when he found me. But I just want people to understand that it is possible, because all you need to do is spend time and find that time in your life, whether it's early in the day or late at night, or pray without ceasing. If you can get to that level, it's an amazing experience. It's that. Just build a relationship with him, keep communicating, keep praying, keep seeking him. And like you said, his answers, whether you like them or not.
Yep.
And one thing that I want to share, like some people are like, how do I know if it's me? How do I know it's him? One thing that I can highlight that I just learned recently is anything that comes from him does not cause anxiety or stress for you.
Well said.
And most likely, and yes, not most likely, for sure, anything that is rooted in scripture and biblical principles is him.
Well said.
Absolutely. And the cool thing, dude, is every once in a while, and this is going to sound crazy to people who don't experience this, but if you get that relationship strong enough with him, and you get that scripture, you can connect it. Holy moly. Like I can count on one hand how many times it's happening. Literal scripture has come to me, and I don't know what it means. I'm not a theologian. I don't read the Bible every day, so so when these things come, I know for sure, because when I ask, and he gives me something like Matthew 5:16, and be the light, let your light shine. Say, I don't even know these by heart, but it's powerful, dude. That's
wow.
You're like, whoa, like, and then he's real. Like, he's giving me scripture, and it's literally what I'm asking for. He's giving me the answers. So, so cool, dude. I want to honor our time here, and make sure that people know what you do and who you serve. So if you want to share that and how people can reach out to you, I do have this one last fun segment I want to get to before we go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the easiest way to find me, I would say, is probably Instagram. My website is reconstructingwealth.com, but you could just find me. It's my name, at Matt Morizio on Instagram. And you'll know what I'm about, what my life's about, what the business is about there, if you just follow along. But if you do want, you can follow me, send me a DM, and tell me, just say you heard this podcast. I created this course. It's about a 6 to 8 minute videos course on just change your relationship with money, from scarcity to abundance, from complexity to clarity. And there's some nuts and bolts of stuff like blocking and tackling personal finance. There's also some research that's a little bit more heady, if you will, but it's all around like what I've experienced is as my relationship with money has changed, as I've emotionally detached from my money and seen it for what it is, just a tool to accomplish life's purposes. As that's happened, my life has changed because it's taken this emotional weight off my shoulders as a provider, and it's allowed me to be more present at home when I'm home with my wife, with my kids. It's also allowed me to work harder in the work because I'm like, okay, this is the time to do this thing, So if I could encourage people to work on that relationship, speaking of them, then I'm here to help you. It's been the most transformative thing in my life. And we don't need to go way down all the different ways that it's happened. Just know that it can happen. I'm case study number 1. And now it's a life's mission to ultimately reconstruct people's relationship with money, hence the name of my firm, Reconstructing Wealth. That's really my underlying mission. Now, I will say to you, people do not come to me because they say, I think I really have an unhealthy relationship with my money and I need your help. Just the same way people don't go to Jenny Craig and say like, I think I emotionally eat at night and I could use some work on that. They're like, I've got a wedding in a month and I need to lose 6 inches and 20 pounds. Like, how do you help me? Yeah. The same way with me, people are like, look, I don't have any clarity on my money. It feels really complex. I'm nervous around it. I don't even know where to start. I need your help with the investment stuff. I need to put together a plan. And I do all that. Like, that's what we do. I just have seen as those conversations happen over the years, as things come up in life and we have a convo about how to think it through, how to use money effectively to accomplish whatever that thing is, the relationship with it changes because it's like we're speaking about money the same way like a carpenter would talk about using a hammer for a nail, as opposed to being this emotional thing. And as that's happened, people have been freed up and people's lives have changed. And it's been super cool. So we are a financial planning firm, a fee-only firm that we invest on people's behalf in that strategy from the book I talked about earlier. So we're hands-on. We're doing it all for people. But really, my mission is to get people to emotionally detach, because I know if I can change their life and their family life, I've changed their family tree and the trajectory of future families that come from that tree forever. And what a really honorable, incredible position God's put me in to be able to do that in people's lives.
I love it. I love it, brother. So good. So look out for Matt, look for him. IG's your main platform, you said?
It's the main one. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, but I would say I'm most active right now on Instagram.
Okay. I love it. I love it, dude. So reconstructingwealth.com, go check it out. Find more of him. If you have a podcast yourself, I welcome you to invite Matt to it. He's a great guest, so he has a lot to share. We didn't even barely scratch the surface of his life and business. But hopefully this was entertaining enough for you. Hopefully, the Holy Spirit was present. I felt at times, so thank you for that, Lord. And brother. Just keep doing what you're doing, man. And
thank you.
Inspiring. And talk to you soon.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it big time.
If you were inspired or you learned something new today, please give us a like or a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. If you want to learn more about how to build your YouTube channel, your personal brand or podcast, hit us up at info@onairbrands.com. That's info@onairbrands.com so that we can find ways that we can help you. I'm Erik Cabral, and I hope that I added value in your life today.